of our program, Guest of the Month, and of course, the first edition in the year 20 across strata of political, economic, historical, geographical structures, locally and internationally. This afternoon, we are Nigerians, and when issues are being discussed, public and the socio-political conflicts in the various regions we have across Nigeria, you're welcome once again. Our guest this afternoon, to do justice to the topic, is a man of means, a man of letters, a teacher of teachers, a professor of professors, a professor of international repute and reckoning, an Ibadan chief, known across the world. Join me, ladies and gentlemen, as I welcome and present to you Professor Toyin Falola.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
It's our pleasure hosting you too. Oluwatoyin Yusuf is my name. Professor Toyin Falola is a professor of history, University Distinguished Teaching Professor, and the Jacob and Francis Sanga Museka Chair in the Humanities, the Universities of Texas at Austin. He is an honorary professor, University of Cape Town, and extraordinary professor of human rights, University of the Free State. Professor Toyin Falola had served as the General Secretary of the Historical Society of Nigeria, the President of the African Studies Association, Vice President of the UNESCO Slave Root Project, and the Card Chair of the Countries of the South Library of Congress. Professor Toyin Falola is a member of the Scholars Council Clark Center, the Library of Congress. He has received over 30 Lifetime Career Awards. I repeat, over 30 Lifetime Career Awards and 14 honorary doctorates. So when I said he is a man of letters, you cannot but agree with me that Professor Toyin Falola is a man of letters. He has written extensively on the humanities, including the humanities in Africa, knowledge production, universities, and the production of knowledge. And a forthcoming book is about decolonizing African studies, knowledge production, agency, and voices. Once again, Professor Toyin Falola, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure hosting you on this program.
I'm glad to be here.
The first of its edition in the year 2022.
Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
My co-presenters are here. The program is bilingual. We speak Yoruba, we speak English. Maybe very soon it's going to be multilingual, who knows? Kudos to the management of OSBC. Shayo Babatunde, you want to come our guest.
Good afternoon, Ke. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mojibola Kayode Oke, ó fẹ́ kí àlejò wa káàbọ̀.
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n tó sórí ètò.
Mo dúpẹ́ o, ìyá wa.
You can get us on our YouTube, OSBC TV, and of course our website, www.osbcng.org. Professor Toyin Falola is an Ibadan chief. So on behalf of the staff and management of OSBC, we commiserate with you on the demise of the middle past Olubadan of Ibadan, Oba Saliu Adetunji Aje Ogunguniso the first.
Amen.
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 Now, let's start from there. Let's go home, some 86 kilometers away from Osogbo, the state capital of Osun, that is Ibadan, where you come from. Ibadan has a consistent historical way of succession when it comes to kingship. How one Olubadan succeeds, another. And everybody, all of us in Yoruba land, always proud of that. My question is this. We are proud, we are not from Oyo State. But you, as an Ibadan chief, how proud are you of that succession arrangement? And how unsettled were you when you learned that some people wanted to toy with it?
Thank you very much. Some things I can say in public can become Olubadan, and we can link the Olubadan to development issues. So when the late governor appointed, elevated high chiefs to kings, I must confess that some of us were not happy about it. Mm-hmm. And I was part of the delegation to His Excellency. but it was done. The crisis now arose when Baba died. Can you promote an Oba to an Oba? Because you've already made them an Oba, it becomes a redundancy because that has never been done. In the 19th century, when this arrangement started, there were 2 lines, and then they created 3 lines, and then they reformed it. And in that reform, it means there will be no fight. In fact, the very day an Olubadan is appointed, we already know the next. But as of yesterday, I think we are moving towards a resolution in which they are saying that those who are appointed by His Excellency as Oba may have to vacate those offices, become high chiefs, and follow the established process. If they do it that way, it's Balogun as the next Olubadan. But of course, in issues, I'm a professor of power, I understand power. In issue of power and politics, people with ambition can always drag things on and it becomes a mess. But we will resolve it. As of late last night, we are still working on that resolution.
Okay, Moju.
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Falola, lórúkọ ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ iléeṣẹ́ yìí, akínyẹ̀kú aráfẹ́rakù ìpapòdà àti Olúbàdàn tó wàjà láìpẹ́. Ṣùgbọ́n gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n nípa ìtàn tí ẹ tún jẹ́ ọmọ onílẹ̀, ọmọ bíbí ìlú Ìbàdàn, a mọ̀ pé àgbékalẹ̀ wà nípa bí wọ́n ṣe máa ń fi ọba jẹ nílùú Ìbàdàn, léyìí tó sì wà lọ́jọ́ tó ti pẹ́, tí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọmọ Yorùbá tó sì máa ń di ohun ìwúrí pé orí ìlú tó fẹ̀jú ní ìlú Ìbàdàn. Ṣùgbọ́n pẹ̀lú nǹkan tó wá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ nípa àti fi ọba jẹ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ yìí gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ onílùú àti ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n, kí ni nǹkan tí ẹ rí sọ sí?
A ní pẹ́ rí òpin wàhálà yìí. Irú ọ̀dẹ̀ wa ní ṣẹlẹ̀ mọ́, irú wàhálà yìí ò ní ṣẹlẹ̀ mọ́. Ohun tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní gómìnà àná, kọ́lọ́n kó forí jòkú, ibi tí wàhálà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ nìyẹn, tí wọ́n fi àwọn àgbà oyè tí wọ́n fi wọ́n jọba. Nígbà tí kábíyèsí wa ìwà wàjà nínú àwọn tán fi jọba yẹn ló yẹ kó jẹ Olúbàdàn, ṣùgbọ́n ẹni tó ti jọba tẹ́lẹ̀ ṣé yóò tún jọba kejì ni? Wọ́n ní wọn kì í ṣègbéga ọba, ìgbéga ọba wọn ní ṣúfẹ́ dọ̀lọ́run ni. Ṣùgbọ́n bí a ṣe wá ń gba gómìnà sí nímọ̀ràn ni pé àwọn tí gómìnà àná fi jẹ ọba káwọn náà yọ̀ǹda àwọn òjọba mọ́, káwa padà sí gbogbo tára àlùmọ́ wípé ìjọba ti jẹ Olúbàdàn lámẹ́yìn tó kàn. Tí Balógun má bọ́ síbẹ̀ ní àmọ́ pé Ládọjà ló ń kàn lẹ́yìn Balógun, kọ́lọ́run dá gbogbo ẹ̀mí wọn sí òkè, kọ́lọ́run kó fún wọn lẹ́mìí gígùn. Ẹ lè má rántí mọ́ pé àtijọba kò bí owó wọn jẹ́ ń gbà yẹn. Inú gbogbo èèyàn ti ẹ̀ dùn pé wọ́n iṣẹ́ àgbàlagbà díẹ̀ wọ́n fi ju ọmọ 100 ọdún lọ ń gbà wọ́n jọba. Pé Ìbàdàn mà lọ́ba 60 something. Dúpẹ́ o yóò lò 40 years lórí ẹ̀, bí oṣù 6 wọn lò. Péyàn dàgbà, péyàn kéré, Ọlọ́run ló lẹ̀mí. Tí a bá yanjú ọ̀rọ̀ tí ètò ń lọ lọ́wọ́, tí Balógun bá joyè, tí àwọn tán ni wọ́n fi jọba tẹ́lẹ̀ tán bá kásẹ̀ ńlẹ̀ tí wọ́n dádé mọ́, gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ ẹni yóò dópin.
Thank you, Professor Falola. Now, Shayo, over to you.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on the program this afternoon. So, looking at your profile, one will know that you are a man of many parts. You are into, particularly at the affairs of the nation, you know almost every aspect of happenings in the country. Now, my own question has to do with the call from different angles, from different sectors, prayer groups for restructuring in Nigeria. Now, so many people talk about restructuring, yet so many other parts of Nigerians don't know what is restructuring. What do we mean when we talk about restructuring in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Ma. And your point is very correct that people talk about different things. Is it devolution of power? Is it regionalism? Is it fiscal federalism, whereby you don't collect all your resources from the Niger Delta? And if you collect VAT, it belongs to you. So there's so many components of it. But nobody has been talking about restructuring our ethics, restructuring our morality. Nobody has been talking about that. Because even if you do devolution, you do fiscal federalism, the thief under the current condition will still be a thief under the new condition. The corrupt politician under current condition will still be a corrupt politician under a new restructured condition. Having said that, there are significant problems in the union as we face. We've been calling this a federal system, but in actual fact, it is an overly centralized system, more like a unitary system, where at the level of the state, the local governments don't control their budgets. The governor can take part of the budget from them. They don't control many of the activities. Just as they are denied full autonomy, the federal government also denied autonomy to the various states. Why this issue came up, it has always been with us. Under Obasanjo, under Jonathan, people have been talking about restructuring. But it's under the current administration that the agitation for restructuring became louder, became messier. Why? The first issue of Fulani herdsmen that generated insecurity. And as it generated insecurity, human beings have to protect themselves. And they began to say, let's have state police, Amatekun, and other police in other parts of the country. And that insecurity exposes the flaws in the federal system. Second, allocation of revenues. That has always been there. Third, partisanship in appointments. How can all the people who control security come from one part of the country? How can the revenues that run the entire country come from Niger Delta and from Lagos, the ports? And the people who say, this is our money, they have to complain. And then, how do you manage issues of what you do with your money? Is it legitimate to borrow money to build a rail line from Kano to another person's country using your own money? And then you're building an extension of the railway to another country, Niger. And all this now combine to make people very, very angry. And I don't want to deceive you, people are very angry. Even in the north, people are angry. Among the Igbo, people are angry. The Yoruba are angry. And when people are angry, they're saying, let's restructure, or as in the case of Sunday Igbo, let us secede. As in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, let us secede. So that anger has fueled all sorts of options, and restructuring is one of them.
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Falola, àtúntò ni ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ní orílẹ̀-èdè yìí ń pè fún. Ṣùgbọ́n tí ẹ bá béèrè lọ́wọ́ ọkọ ti bí, a nìkan báyìí ni eléyìí. Tá bá ń sọ nípa àtúntò, irú àtúntò wo gan là ń pè fún? Báwo la ṣe fẹ́ tún orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà?
Àwọn kan sọ pé kí wọ́n yapa bí àwọn tó ti ní àwọn fẹ́ dá Odùduwà Republic lẹ̀ bí àwọn Sunday Igboho. Àwọn kan ní kí àwọn ẹ̀yà àti ìwà kan fún wọn ní agbára tí ìjọba àpapọ̀ àdínkù. Àwọn náà ní agbára láti ṣètò ìlú àwọn, láti lo ọrọ̀ ajé wọn bọ́n ṣe fẹ́. Àwọn kan sọ wípé kí wọ́n mú agbára yẹn kan pín sí ọ̀nà mẹ́ta bó ṣe wà nígbà yí àwọn Awólọ́wọ̀, Azikiwe àti Amadu Bello.
kó jẹ́ lẹ́kùnjẹkùn.
So oríṣi àbámẹ́ta yẹn ni wọ́n ń dá ṣùgbọ́n ìjọba tó bá ń bẹ̀ ní ìsìn ní ohun ògbà kankan pé constitution 1999 nìkan ni òun máa gbà tó bá dọdún tó ń bọ̀ tí wọ́n bá ń gbé àpótí ìbò.
The non-Ijaw leader, Chief Edwin Clark, came out to say, no, what should happen is that the mineral resources found in the region should be managed by the people of the region. But former President Olusegun Obasanjo came out and opposed such, that no, this is a federation, and that everything should go to the federal government. We will now share out and give to those from whose regions and states we get such. Now, some people that no, the people of Niger Delta have nothing to argue about. After all, which other regions do not have?
Reconfigured the revenue allocation and gave them a higher percentage and began to divert resources to them. But consistently, that resources have been abused and abused and abused. The news broke out last year about billions and billions and billions of naira that were badly mismanaged. So, in other words, the leadership in the Niger Delta itself is abusing the trust that is reposed in it. It's corrupt and is mismanaging those funds with the consequences, number one, that the majority of the people don't benefit. Number two, the majority of people in the Niger Delta don't see development. So there's grassroots agitation. And you remember this grassroots agitation is not new. It has always been there. Under Abacha, it led to the execution of Sarowiwa. After Abacha, especially under Jonathan, it led to the rise of terrorism, in which some militants began to attack Shell and other companies. That issue is still there. But so they have two options. One, the people in the Niger Delta can put pressure on their people, manage their money very well. But there are those who argue that why are they singling them out as thieves when there are Yoruba thieves, Hausa thieves, Fulani thieves? Why are they singling out their own people? So there is that anger directed at them, and directed at the leadership of other groups. There are those who use restructuring as a cover. In fact, a number of southern governors use everything down there is expensive because their land is damaged. So it's very expensive to live there. So that in itself generates a wide range of complaints, which their politicians must also manage. And in managing that crisis, they have to keep talking about restructuring and restructuring. To move on to your other issues, notice two things that they talk about: the 1999 Constitution and the need to revise it. Since we've been managing the so-called democracy, bear in mind that the foundation of the Constitution was done under the military. The impact of the military is still there. And that impact of the military is towards centralization, in which some people argue that that constitution favors the North and that it has to be revised to distribute power more effectively. This crisis is still going to continue because we have not solved it. It has remained a serious national question, and until it is resolved, it's not going anywhere.
So you have answered the three: political, resource allocation, and management of resources.
Please,
yes. Wọ́n ní àfikún kó tó di pé ẹ dáhùn ìbéèrè yìí ẹ̀ ń sọ̀rọ̀ nígbà tẹ́ ń dáhùn sí tó lè jẹ́ bí ọ̀nà àbáyọ sí àtúntò táwọn èèyàn ń pè fún ẹ dárúkọ ayé bàbá Awólọ́wọ̀ ń gbà yẹn pé tí tá à ń ṣe ìjọba ẹlẹ́kùnjẹkùn ṣe pé àwọn ẹ̀yà Ìgbò wọ́n mójútó àwọn nǹkan tẹ́lẹ̀dọ̀ àfijíǹkì wọn nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ń bí àti lókè ọ̀yà lọ́hùn ṣùgbọ́n gbà tẹ́ ń dáhùn ìbéèrè Tóyìn lórí àgbékalẹ̀ àjọ tó mójútó ìdàgbàsókè ẹkùn Niger Delta bí àwọn tó jẹ́ bí adarí wọn bí wọ́n ṣe ń ṣe àwọn nǹkan tó yẹ kó jẹ́ àǹfààní fún gbogbo ẹkùn yẹn ìbéèrè mi wá ni pé tí ó bá jẹ́ kíkà padà sí ẹlẹ́kùnjẹkùn bí ẹ ṣe sọ ṣáájú ó máa jí ọ̀kan lára ọ̀nà àbáyọ sí àtúntò tá à ń pè fún ṣẹ́yìn gan orí gẹ́gẹ́ bí Ọ̀yọ́ orílẹ̀-èdè yìí ti gbọ́n ju ibi tó wà láyé bàbá Awólọ́wọ̀ lọ ṣó lè jọ́nà àbáyọ.
ẹ ṣe kò sẹ́ni tó mọ ọjọ́ ọ̀la ọjọ́ èní la mọ̀ ọjọ́ òní la fi ń ronú ọjọ́ ọ̀la ìmọ̀ ẹni náà la fi ń ronú bí nǹkan ó ṣe rí lẹ́yìn ọ̀la àwọn tó ń sọ pé ká padà sí ayé gbogbo ọgbà Awólọ́wọ̀ ní tí wọ́n rí pé àwọn èèyàn ń lọ ilé ẹ̀kọ́ wọ́n ń ríṣẹ́ wọ́n ń rómi mu wọ́n ń rí iná òun ni wọ́n fi ń rò bẹ́ẹ̀ àdè lè sọ pé nǹkan tí wọ́n ń sọ pé irọ́ ni torí wọ́n parọ́ àdè lè sọ pé orí wọn ò pé torí orí wọn pé àdè lè sọ pé wọn ò lóye torí wọ́n lóye àdè lè sọ pé wọn ò gbọ́n torí wọ́n gbọ́n tí wọ́n bá ní ìmọ̀ yẹn kí ni wọ́n fẹ́ fi ìmọ̀ yẹn ṣe onítàn lèmi dáhùn pé ìtàn ni pé èèyàn wo ìgbà kan ó rí pé ó dà ó gbà tó wà nísìn ó rí pé ó dà ó wá ní ṣé ẹ fẹ́ súnmọ́ wájú ni kẹ́ wàá mú ìtàn tẹ̀yìn kẹ́ ẹ fi mọ bí ọjà ọ̀la ó ṣe dà ṣùgbọ́n ntí wọn bá sọ ntí wọn bá ṣe tí ebi bá ń para àlù ara ò ní rọ okùn ara ò ní rọ adìẹ tí aráàlú ò bá rí ọ̀nà àbáyọ olówó ò ní lálàáfíà mẹ̀kúnnù náà ò ní ní àlàáfíà tára ẹnìkan ò bá yá torí bàálù gbé lọ sílùú òyìnbó tára ẹnìkan ò rà yá tó lọ lé babaláwo tí ọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀ lójútùú tó lọ lé hospital tọrọ ẹ̀ lójútùú ṣé inú rẹ̀ ó dùn kó àparò kan ò ga jù kan lọ àfi tó bá gorí ebè olórí ìlú àtẹni tí ó jẹ́ aráàlú àǹfààní kan náà ló yẹ kán máa jẹjẹ tí àǹfààní yẹn bá ti ń yàtọ̀ ló bá ti ń yàtọ̀ àwọn èèyàn ó máa bínú àwọn èèyàn tẹ̀ tí wọ́n á sọ pé kí Nàìjíríà máa dúpẹ́ o pé wọn ìbínú wọn ò tó pé wọn ìbínú ìlú yìí o pé wọn kì í bínú rárá àwọn kan ti ń sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ o láàrin ìlú wa àti nílùú òkèèrè pé àwọn yìí ṣe wà báyìí tí wọ́n wá ní sùúrù pé sùúrù yìí Ọlọ́run máa yòókù bá wọn ànírà alákòóbá ṣùgbọ́n bí nǹkan ṣe ń lọ yìí káṣá máa gbàdúrà ni pé kí ọ̀rọ̀ wa kó má di ogun kó má dọ̀tẹ̀ gbogbo àwa tá a bá ń gbàdúrà ká máa gbàdúrà ká tún máa gbàdúrà pé k'Ọlọ́run kó sí àwọn orílẹ̀ àwọn tó ó ń ṣèjọba pé kí wọ́n ó tètè gbọ́n kí wọ́n ó sì tètè tọ́jú àwọn aráàlú torí tí wàhálà bá bẹ́ apá wọn ò ní ká o apá wọn ò ní ká ẹ ṣeun.
Shara, over to you.
Well, my own question is about zoning. There have been so much hues and cries over how presidential candidates emerge across the country. Some believe that it should be rotated, it should be zoned. When the North takes the first time to be the North, the time of the North or the West, or however it's going to be. Do you support this notion?
Thank you, ma. You know, it's a political party arrangement. It's not in the Constitution. So when you govern a country, there's what we call a convention. Conventions are never written down.
Yeah.
It's like a marriage. So it's like a marriage. Many of the things that create problems in the marriage, they are conventions. They are not written down in the marriage certificate. So issue of zoning is a party arrangement. It's not in any Nigerian constitution in which those who are fighting for power, struggling for power, are the ones who are devising the means of internal party arrangement to do that. So they're just doing their own fight. And sometimes they go to the judges to control them, so that our case is now which is very tragic. Now, if the argument is, let's have one president as a constitutional issue, not as a partisan issue, and maybe 6 vice presidents, that may be one way in which, at the constitutional level, you're actually distributing this power in a way that will satisfy people. But for Obasanjo, how will a Nigerian man like Jonathan have become president? It's structured in that way. We are very diverse. We are over 250 groups of people. If I were Igala, and I call myself as a Nigerian, and I wake up from primary school, I tell myself, nobody from my group will ever become president. How do you want me to feel? How do you want me to feel? Even in the state, and I don't want to use your state so that I don't create some problems. There are groups who feel marginalized. If you are from Benue State, the Chief, the Igala, the Igede, the Udoma, and if the Igede say, under no condition would their person ever be a governor, they are not going to identify with the state. So what we want to do is to ensure that all Nigerians identify with Nigeria, all Nigerians, irrespective of their religion, whether they are Muslims or Christians or followers of traditional religion, would think that if he or she has the ambition, it is possible. Once you say it's not possible, you are creating a problem. And one of the things that other countries have done is to say that the highest office is possible. Obama was a black man. He wasn't rich, but he became a president. Once you leave that possibility open, people with ambition in Oshobo or Ibadan would say, okay, if I struggle, if I make my calculations, maybe it may work out. It may not work out. It doesn't mean, but at least ensure that you give all your citizens the opportunities to aspire, to hope, and to believe that that's not working. That issue of citizenship, we have to think about it, that you and I will be able to say, this country belongs to us. The moment you don't think like that, you say, okay, let's have regional powers. If the only place I can succeed in life, I can feel that I'm somebody is within my state, then there will be pressures.
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n, ní àfikún eléyìí tí ẹ dá ǹtán yìí, ẹ rí pé nígbà tí Nàìjíríà ti ń jẹ́ orúkọ ẹ̀ tó ti ń jẹ́ Nàìjíríà, wọ́n á ní ẹ̀yin bàbá wa ní àti ra wa pé ẹyọ kan, ò bá jẹ́ Haúsá, ò bá jẹ́ Ìgbò, ò bá jẹ́ Yorùbá, a gbà pé orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà ẹyọ kan ni wá. Lákọ̀ọ́kọ́ kí lẹ kọ́kọ́ rò pé ó bí ká máa ní èrò ẹlẹ́yàmẹ̀yà bí ẹ ṣe sọ pé ẹ̀yà ìjọ àwò pé níjọ́ tán tiẹ̀ ti ń ṣàárẹ̀ ṣe mo léyàn bẹ́ẹ̀ kẹ́yà ìgalà kankan dìde láti Kogi kó ní ṣé ẹ̀yà tiwa ṣó tiẹ̀ dé ipò ààrẹ rí, a sì ti mọ̀ láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ pé a gbọ́dọ̀ ríra wa lẹ́yọ kan pé ìṣọ̀kan yẹn ló lè jẹ́ kí Nàìjíríà kó sì máa jẹ́ Nàìjíríà. Ibo ni èrò pé ẹ̀yà tèmi ò tí ì débẹ̀ rí, ibo ló ti wá, àti pé bí Nàìjíríà ṣe gbòòrò tó lónìí, ṣé ẹ rò pé a lè padà ní èrò kan pé ẹyọ kan náà sì ni wá ní Nàìjíríà ká má tiẹ̀ tí ì fi tẹ̀sìn kún.
Ẹ ṣe ìyá wa, Ọlọ́run ó fi kún ìmọ̀ yín, Ọlọ́run ó sì fún yín ní ọgbọ́n àtòyé. Wọ́n ní amúkùn, ó ní òkèlè ń wò ẹ̀ wò sálẹ̀, ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ mà ló ti wọ́ wá. Ìjà yẹn kàn ń pọ̀ sí ni, ó kàn ń pọ̀ sí ni, ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ ló ti wọ́ wá. Ẹ rántí pé láti kí àwọn òyìnbó tó lọ ní gbogbo ìjà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, kán tó lọ ní gbogbo ìjà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀. Ó ti ní àwọn ará òkè ọ̀yà ló tiẹ̀ lọ́kọ̀ àwọn kọ́kọ́ fẹ́ lọ́pọ̀ àwọn òṣè, wọ́n sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ o. Ń bò yẹ ẹnìkan Isaac Boro lórúkọ ẹ̀ ní Niger Delta, ó ń bẹ̀rẹ̀ ìjà tiẹ̀, pé òun ò ṣe Nàìjíríà mọ́ bóyá ojúkú náà bẹ̀rẹ̀ ìjà tiẹ̀ ó lóun ò ṣe Nàìjíríà mọ́ ọdún mẹ́ta la fi jàjà yẹn ní tí mò ń sọ ni pé ọ̀rọ̀ yìí ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ lánàá ó ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ tipẹ́tipẹ́ nígbà tí wọ́n dẹ̀ ní ẹ jẹ́ ká wo ohun tá a lè ṣe sí i wọ́n ní tó bá ti jáde yunifásitì o wà bá ìjọba ṣiṣẹ́ o tó ń pè ní NYSC ìyẹn kò ṣeé ṣe mọ́ wọ́n ní ẹ jẹ́ ká dá unity school lẹ̀ ìwọ tó wá látọ̀ṣun ìwọ tó wá látògùn àti ìwọ tó wá láti Màdúgùrì tẹ́ bá tiẹ̀ lọ sí ilé ìwé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga kan náà bóyá ẹ fẹ́ràn ara yín gbogbo ìgbésẹ̀ tá à ń gbé èsì tá à ń wá àárín díẹ̀ èsì pé
ká lè ra wa lọ́kàn
nǹkan ló jáde wọ́n tó wá ní tí a bá mú gbogbo iṣẹ́ ọlọ́pàá ká so pọ̀ iṣẹ́ rélùwé ká so pọ̀ yunifásitì àwọn tó ti dálẹ̀ ẹgbà gbogbo ẹ̀ kò rí bí a ṣe rò ó tí ó bá wá rí bí a ṣe rò ó kí wàá là lè ṣe àkọ́kọ́ ká gbà wípé ibi tí wọ́n bá ti bí yàn ó lè lọ sí bòmíì kó dẹ̀ jàǹfààní ibi tó lọ yẹn ẹlẹ́kejì ká gbà wípé ẹ̀tọ́ tí àwọn aráàlú ń jẹ ẹ̀tọ́ yẹn wọ́n lè jẹ ní gbogbo ilẹ̀ tá à ń pè ní Nàìjíríà ẹlẹ́kẹta wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́ káwọn èèyàn máa rò wípé nítorí pé wọ́n jóbìnrin nítorí pé wọ́n jẹ́ màlé nítorí pé wọ́n ga nítorí pé wọ́n kúrú ni ìyà fi ń jẹ wọ́n torí tí àwọn aráàlú bá ti ń rò bẹ́ẹ̀ kò sí nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ lè ṣe tí tinú wọn ó dùn àṣìṣe tá à ń ṣe ó pọ̀ àṣìṣe tá à ń ṣe ti pọ̀ jù ṣé ẹ mọ̀ pé tí gbogbo èèyàn bá lè gbé oúnjẹ sí orí tábìlì wọn tí wọ́n lè rán ọmọ wọn lọ sí ilé ìwé tára wọn ò bá yá tí wọ́n lè rí ilé ìwòsàn tí iná wọn ò lọ tómi wọn ò lọ inú wọn ò dùn ẹ má jẹ́ ká parọ́ fúnra wa ẹ̀yin náà dẹ̀ mọ̀ ìyálóde inú àwọn èèyàn wa ò dùn tínú wọn ò bá dẹ̀ ti dùn wọn á máa bínú ìbínú yẹn wá pọ̀ ìbínú yẹn pọ̀ bí ìbínú yẹn ó ṣe wá máa lọlẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ètò tó dáa ìjọba tó dáa àti ìwà olóṣèlú tí wọn ní máa kówó òlù jẹ òní ká máa rò ká lè máa fàdúrà tì.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor of History, Professor Toyin Falola. Nigeria has separated about 3 or 4 constitutions since independence. We have the 1960 independence, 1960 Republican Constitution, 1979 Constitution, which midwifed the Second Republic, and now the 1999 Constitution, which serves as the ground norm and fulcrum and pivot for the current political experience. Now, recently, members of the National Assembly came together and they were staging public hearing across the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria with a view to review the 1999 Constitution to address some of the issues you have been raising. But personally, if you had been consulted, or do I say if you were consulted, give us the highlights of the areas you would want to impute that will reflect true federalism and strengthen Nigeria's unity.
Thank you very much. And in addition to what you've listed, a number of national conferences and call for national conferences. And so many other government-sponsored conferences to resolve this issue. I also just released a long book of 700 pages called Understanding Modern Nigeria, where at length I laid out solutions to many of these crises. There's a broad range of consensus that most people agree to.
Okay.
Number one, autonomy to regions and states. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Number two, reduce this centralization, which is like number one. Now it's too over-centralized. Number three, scale down corruption. Because, as one British Prime Minister said, Nigeria is fantastically corrupt. In what, say, take Ibadan-Ife Road, Ibadan-Lagos Road, less than 60 miles. It has been called the most expensive road in world history. 15 years. It is not a river. It is not a stream. It is not a swamp. It is not a lagoon. And we've spent billions and billions of naira constructing that. The lifespan of a road, 5 years. That corruption is too excessive. And even if you restructure, if that level of corruption remains, the crisis will also remain. People have suggested review the constitutional definition of citizenship. Would you say that a person is bound to the area of his state? If you say, I was born in Osogbo, I remain an Osogbo citizen all my life, what does it mean if I work in Kano all my life? Okay. That citizenship question is not going to work for a country that is going to become one of the largest in the world. Nigeria will end up becoming one of the top 10 largest countries in the world. So just let me give you one example. If you live in the United States, anywhere where you pay your tax for a maximum of 2 years, some is even less, that becomes your state of origin. You can pack your luggage from California, you move to Austin, Texas, you collect your driver's license, you pay your tax. You are no longer from California. That's why Clinton can become the president from Arkansas. His wife, after becoming first lady, moved to New York to become senator, because you can flourish in any state where you live. That is representing a limitation on the progress of our people. We have to work on that. Without working on that, there will be agitations, serious agitations, so that we have young men and women who we have to allow them to move to any part of West Africa, any part of Nigeria, and flourish. In the age of the internet, in the age of aeroplane, in the age of cell phone, you can live anywhere. I have some friends who are watching this program. I live in Austin. I can make up my mind on a Monday that I want to be in Lagos. By Tuesday morning at 9:30, I'm already in Lagos. So today it doesn't matter anymore where people live, because of the rapidity of the transport system, of a variety of infrastructure. So we have to free our people so that they can benefit from, and then we have to build knowledge economy. So in this part of the country, I have been preaching and preaching and preaching. I'm not asking the politicians not to do their fight. They should continue to do their fight. But I keep telling parents, bother yourself about the education of your children. Because if you educate your children very well, the politicians can be doing whatever they like. Your children will take the education you give her and you give him and use that education anywhere in the world. So that knowledge economy is what I'm preaching now. Because I'm telling parents, don't put your faith in politicians. Put your faith in your children. Use all the resources you have to educate them maximally, and you will see that the investment will come in a way that your family will do well. That knowledge economy, the Southwest, the Yoruba have had it, and it's our source of power. Oil is going to run out. If it doesn't run out, the world will use less oil. We're already moving in that direction. But knowledge economy is going to be here forever. And that is what I'm preaching. To you and your children, to you and your children.
Yeah, thank you. Please, Shayo, in your response, you listed some areas: autonomy to state, reduction of centralization. But in the Constitution, we have 3 areas they call 3 lists: the residual for the federal government,
Yes.
the concurrent for state
Yes.
and federal government, and the exclusive and what of you.
Yes.
Now, if we have to give the states and the regions autonomy, then invariably we have to do away with some of the lists, and maybe we will have to be talking about things that are exclusive to each of the states. Isn't it?
Very, very good. But you know, there are many things we worry about which have been solved in other countries.
Okay.
We worry about NEPA. We don't have any new ideas to generate electricity. These ideas are already on the table. We worry about roads. The Roman Empire had been building roads before Christ. If you read the Bible, there were good roads. We worry about education. In other words, we don't have to reinvent the wheels. These ideas have been created for us. There are documents about federalism that work, tried in some other countries. So, no power, if you don't commit a crime, say in federal US, can enter your house. No, not the federal police. Nobody can enter your house. That is a power granted unto you. Nobody. In fact, and I'm not saying we should do that, the law even allows you to shoot somebody who enters your property without permission, and nothing will happen to you.
In the US?
Yes. Because they say your house is your house. It's your estate with its own law and its own autonomy. If you commit a crime, the judge will give them a warrant to come. But without a judge warrant, nobody can come to your house. At the level of the state, it has its own power. Your property, if it has oil, the oil belongs to you, not to the government, not to the state. So these federal papers have been there. It has been practiced. It has been practiced so well. And I will give you some examples. When President Bush was in power, his daughters attended my school. When it came to convocation, the parents wrote to the university, they don't want the president of the US to attend the convocation. That's the power of the parents, to say, president of the country, don't come to our campus. So these powers are there. What we do is that it's not that we do not know these documents, but we have vested interests who redraw the parameters of what we define as federalism. Let me break it out to you. There are states in this country that contribute little to nothing to the federal purse. I don't want to embarrass any state by naming them. How can you have in a union states that don't contribute? Number two, whether you contribute or not, your salary is the same. If you work at Utmandanfodio University and you work at the University of Ibadan, your salary is the same. There is no federal system where that is done. If you work in Alabama, Texas, California, New York, Louisiana, your salary is not the same as a professor, because the states are not generating the same resources. I live in Texas. My salary is going to be higher than somebody who works in Nebraska. Why? Texas is like Nigeria. We have oil. Nebraska only has corn. So why should somebody who lives in a state where they produce corn and myself who live in a state that produces oil be making the same salary? A true federalism has already worked that out. That you can develop the potentials of your state to increase the potentials of your citizen. You can underdevelop it to undermine the potentials of your own citizen. So we break all the rules. We break all the rules in federal documents. There are not just, if you take policing, there's federal police, there is state police, there's county police. We have police on my campus with the same power as the state police, with integrated by computer, so that if the federal police arrests you, my campus police already has a record of your arrest. So we violate the principles of federalism in security, in police matters, in revenue distribution, in revenue collection. So one state says you cannot drink beer. I will destroy all your beer parlors. I will not allow beer merchants. Another person says you can drink beer. You can go to a nightclub. And then you now say, okay, I will collect the tax where they drink beer, and I'll give it to people where they refuse to drink beer. So all these are violations of the principles and tenets of federalism. I'm not saying anything new. They themselves know this, but self-interest, regional interest. And there's a thinking that has been going on in this country. That thinking, I know the origin of it. It originated in the 1980s, and I know those who originated it. So the way they do the argument is that the Igbo know about business, the Yoruba know about education, the Hausa Fulani know about power. Let each person now control the domain of what it knows. Let the Yoruba keep going to Osun State University. Let the Igbo people be selling their spare parts, and let the Hausa Fulani control the power. That thinking remains with us. It's a flawed thinking. And if we do not check that thinking, it's going to be one of the bases that will ultimately lead us into trouble.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I was laughing, smiling when you were just analyzing the life in America. Sir, this is Nigeria. And there are so many things that worked outside the country. Most of the people, most of you, even when you get out of the country, your orientation has changed. Naturally, a Nigerian is a lawbreaker. But when we travel out, we are, of course, the best law-abiding person when we get out of the country. Now, my question is, you have said so much, you have compared. I don't belong to the group of people that compare. I will never compare Nigeria with America, because so many things work there, they don't work here. They are just theory. The way you are talking now, it sounds so logical. It is easier said than done. Now my question is, how do we make it work? How do we make Nigeria work? If we have people like you, that you have traveled wide and wide across the globe, and we have ways of tapping from your wealth of knowledge. How do you now want to tell the younger ones, younger generation, to know that what works in America can work in Nigeria? Because naturally, Nigeria, we are Nigerians anywhere in the world.
Okay, thank you. When I was young, my mother will always force me to read the Bible and put me in singing practice. I was in the choir for 11 years. And I do not know whether you are familiar with the story of Saul, who became Paul.
Yeah, Saul of Tarsus.
Very good. I'm part of the stories of Prophet Muhammad and Christ. Human beings are capable of transformation. I don't agree that Nigerians are difficult. In fact, I've been to over 60 countries. The values, aspirations of Nigerians, I will rate them as one of the very best in the world. Our people are very law obedient, contrary to accusing them of lawbreakers. In Nigeria with anywhere, it is only a patient person who will accept that from his government. You have to be extremely patient. In other places, they will have embarked on revolution. They will not let those who govern them sleep. We are very patient. Majority of Nigerians are law-abiding. You see, if you give me one bad Nigerian, I will give you 4 good Nigerians. Let me tell you, the majority of Nigerians are not corrupt. Because for you to steal money, you have to see money. You have to see money. If you don't see money, you can't steal it. Maybe they can be selling their tomatoes. I don't agree with, maybe I've not run into many bad people. I know there are bad eggs. There's nothing I'm not going to deny that. So this is one of the countries in the world that you can reform very rapidly with good leadership, with sincere leadership, with trust, with commitment. So if you provide facilities enough, people are not going to rush to take them. If you provide a solid agriculture, many of what we complain about, we must relate it to the way we have been governed. We must relate it to the leadership value. If those who are at the top steal money, what do you want people at the bottom to do? They will do the same thing, because those who are at the top are providing bad example. It's like parenting. It's like parenting. Good parents produce good kids. Good leaders produce good citizens. So we have to be very careful, because I don't blame the victims. I don't blame the victims of state power, because they have been abused. I don't blame the victims of poverty. If somebody is poor, what do you want him to do if he doesn't have money to put food on his table? Why can't we say we will solve the problem of that poverty? Because part of what we call bad manners, they are in response to something. Human beings just don't. I have never seen a human being who prays to God, God make me a thief, God make me a thief, God make me a bad person. But there are conditions in society that make them what they become. If you go to Osun State University, your parents have put you in nursery school. They pay for your school fees, secondary school. They send you to school and pay, and you collect your degree, and there's nothing you can do. What do you become? Whatever you become that we see as bad manners, circumstances have made you so. Because they do not give you the opportunities to be yourself, to aspire to what you want to become. So they turn their talents into brilliance, into yahoo yahoo. But you can reverse it back. And history has shown us examples upon examples, whether it's in the Soviet Union, whether it's in China. Everything you say Nigerians are, they existed in China in the 50s, before the rise of Mao, who transformed the country. So I don't see our people as bad. I see them as responding to conditions that frustrate their lives.
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Toyin Falola, ẹ kú ohùn látàárọ̀.
Kò tí rẹ̀ mí o.
Kò sí ní rẹ̀ yín láéláé. Kí n fa
ojú tí mo ti ẹ̀ ń wò yìí, ó ń jẹ́ kó rí mi pé sí.
Olúwa ṣe. Mo tún fẹ́ fà yín padà sí níbi ìbéèrè tí Toyin bí lẹ́ẹ̀kan.
Ṣé Toyin làwọn náà jẹ́?
Olórúkọ yín ni.
Èmi náà Toyin.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Ẹ sì ní iṣẹ́ iléeṣẹ́ yìí èè ṣèrú. Ẹ fi Toyin béèrè ìbéèrè lọ́wọ́ Toyin.
Kẹ́rù má bàa wà náà ni. Professor, ìbéèrè mi ó fẹ́ pín sí méjì. Tá bá wo àgbékalẹ̀ ìlànà orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà, ẹ rí pé bí ìjọba ṣe wà ní ẹlẹ́kàǹkà, òun náà ló wà ní ìpele nípele. Ẹ̀ka tí aláṣẹ wà, executive, judiciary wà tó jẹ́ ti ètò ìdájọ́, tí àwọn aṣòfin náà wà. Wọ́n sì ní àgbékalẹ̀ mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta yìí kí èkejì kó lè máa pe àkọ́kọ́ sí àkíyèsí ni. Kí ẹ̀kẹta náà kó lè pe àtẹ̀kíní àti èkejì sí àkíyèsí ni. ibi tí ó bá ti kù díẹ̀ káàtó kí wọ́n pè wọ́n padà pé báyìí ló yẹ ká ṣe. Tí a bá wá wo ẹ̀ka aláṣẹ tí a ní ní orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà, tá a wo ẹ̀ka ètò ìdájọ́, tí a tún wò mọ́ ti ẹ̀ka aṣòfin, pẹ̀lú bí nǹkan ṣe rí yìí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n, ẹ̀ka wo la fẹ́ sọ wípé kò ṣe ń tó yẹ kó ṣe nígbà tí mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta wà láti máa pe ara wọn sí àkíyèsí, ṣùgbọ́n síbẹ̀ nǹkan tó ń lọ bó ṣe ń lọ yìí, èwo ló dàbí ìgbà pé bóyá òun ni ò ṣe ojúṣe tiẹ̀ bó ṣe yẹ kó ṣe tàbí tó fi tiẹ̀ sílẹ̀ tí kò ṣe.
Wọ́n ní tán máa ń tàn yàn kó mọ́ tàn rẹ̀ jẹ, tán máa ń tàn yàn kó mọ́ tàn rẹ̀ jẹ. Àwọn tó máa fẹ́ ṣèrú wọ́n ní òrìṣà òkè má má jẹ́ kí gbogbo àwọn tó gọ̀ ń lu ìkan gbọ́n káwọn tó gbọ́n lè máa rí nǹkan jẹ. Ó mà dàbí pé wọ́n ń tàn yín jẹ, wọ́n ti ń tàn yín jẹ. Ẹgbẹ́ kan ló wà ní Nàìjíríà, ẹgbẹ́ olè, ẹgbẹ́ kan ni, ẹ̀yin lẹ wá ń pè wọ́n lórúkọ ọ̀tọ̀ọ̀tọ̀. Awo ni wọ́n ń ṣe, awo ni wọ́n ń ṣe. Nínú awo yẹn ó lè gbé, ó lè gbà, ó lè gbé, ó lè gbà ni. Àwọn ẹ̀ka mẹ́ta tí ẹ dárúkọ yẹn, àwọn mẹ́ta ló ní Nàìjíríà o, ẹ̀ sí lára wọn o, mo ṣe ń wojú yín o. Àwọn tó ti fi iṣẹ́ ológun gbàjọba tó wá pọ̀ lápò wọn, wọn ti náwó yẹn tán o láti 1999. Nígbà tó owó yẹn dínkù, Ọlọ́run á bá wọn ṣe Boko Haram. Nígbà Ọlọ́run á pèsè Boko Haram fún wọn, wọ́n á fẹ́ Boko Haram yẹn lójú, wọ́n á fi ń gbówó jáde, wọ́n á ń pín àpapín. Àwọn yẹn lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn. Àwọn olóṣèlú, ẹ rí i pé olóṣèlú tó bá jẹ gọ́vnọ̀ tán tó fẹ́ jẹ sẹ́nétọ̀ tó lè padà jẹ gọ́vnọ̀, òun àti ìyàwó ẹ̀ ńgbà wọn bá gbẹ́sẹ̀ lẹ́sẹ̀, dàlí ìyẹ́wọ̀ náà ò ní lè ṣèjọba kí kìíní ìtúpọ̀ díẹ̀ sí i. Ọmọ wa náà ńkọ́ wọ́n ti ṣe é rí i pé wọ́n ti ń tàn yín jẹ, kọ́lọ́run á jẹ ẹ̀gbọ́n gbẹ̀yàn fi ìyàwó ẹ̀ sí agbára tó fọmọ ẹ̀ sí agbára. Ṣé rí tí wọ́n ní wọ́n pín yẹn, òfin mélòó wọ́n ń ṣe níbi tí wọ́n ti ń ṣòfin? Àtàdájọ́ ni o. Ṣé wọ́n fẹ́ jẹ gómìnà? Jẹ́mi náà jẹ́ ń bẹ̀. Àwọn aráàlú náà wá ní ó dà kò burú, ṣó fẹ́ kí n dìbò fún ẹ? Kúkú fún èmi náà lówó kí n fira díẹ̀, kí n dẹ̀ fi rẹ́sì sí bí òjòjọ́ kan lórí nǹkan tí mo lè rí gbà bẹ́ẹ̀ náà nù tó bá ti wọlé kò sí nǹkan kan mọ́. Àwọn náà ní kò burú. Àwọn aráàlú àwa ń sọ fún wọn pé ẹ má gba 3,000 4,000 lọ́wọ́ wọn. Ọlọ́run ò ní jẹ́ ká jẹ ayé ọmọ wa mọ́tò ọmọ wa. Tí aráàlú náà bá ń wọjọ́ ọ̀la tó lóṣèlú bá ní gba 3,000 náà ní ò fẹ́ 3,000 ẹ fún wa lómi sádùúgbò wa, so fẹ́ ká dìbò fún ẹ bá wa tọ́nà wá sí. Kò sí yàtọ̀ púpọ̀ ní gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń sọ yìí, kò sí yàtọ̀ púpọ̀ o. Èrò kan náà wọ́n ní ẹ rí àṣírí wọn tọ́mọ wọn bá ń ṣe ìyàwó pé gbogbo wọn lójọ máa ń lọ ọbẹ̀. Kí ni adájọ́ ń wá nínú ìgbéyàwó ọmọ olóṣèlú?
Toyin Falola.
Ẹ máa bọ̀.
Ṣé rí tí àwọn aráàlú tí wọ́n bá dá sọ̀rọ̀ yìí lákàyè yín lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn pé kádájọ́ aṣòfin àwọn aláṣẹ wà pé kí wọ́n máa rárá máa ṣẹ́ra wọn lẹ́ẹ̀kan náà kọ́ máa yẹ kọ́ máa tẹ bíréèkì ẹsẹ̀ wọn níṣẹ̀lẹ̀ wọn ní ìtumọ̀ rẹ̀ pé ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n kan wà níwájú ilé ẹ bá dé Kenya kò sí tí wọ́n sọ lórúkọ ẹ̀. Kenyatta University currency owó ìlú wọn fọ́tò ẹ̀ ló wà ó wá kọ ìwé kan ó pè ní Facing Mount Kenya ẹ̀rì ibi tí mò ń bọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀ lọ tẹ́ bá farabalẹ̀ o nínú ìwé yẹn ó wá sọ ìtàn kan ó ní kọ̀lọ̀kọ̀lọ̀ làwọn Yorùbá ń pe ẹranko yẹn ó ló wá ń pe àwọn ẹranko pé báwo làwọn èèyàn torí wọn àwọn náà máa ń rí èèyàn o bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn ṣe rí ẹranko lẹ́ranko náà rí yín o ó ní kí ló dé táwọn ẹranko ń gbé inú ilé táwa ń jẹ́ kí òjò pa wá táwa wá ń gbé abẹ́ igi kọ̀lọ̀kọ̀lọ̀ wà àwọn ẹranko ní ẹbẹ ẹranko níwọ̀ ẹja máa gúngi ó bá lọ kọ́lé ó bá lóun fẹ́ ṣe àjọyọ̀ kan wá bá ń ṣílé làwọn ẹranko bá lọ bá ṣílé àti kìnìún àtẹkùn àtọ̀bọ ńgbà wọn ṣe tán yóò bìnà kù bí ẹrú kú Ìbàdàn làwa ti wá o àtàbá wa gbádá tán á ní àwa ò lò lọ o ṣùgbọ́n tó bá kan pàtí ẹ ké sí a nọ́mbà ní ẹkùn bá wo sùnsùnsùn ó bá ní kọ̀lọ̀kọ̀lọ̀ tí n bá ka ení èjì ẹ̀ta tí n bá dórí ẹ̀ta tó bá ti kúrò lé mo gbé ọjẹ ni ó mà lékún lé ẹ ó lé inú bí kọ̀lọ̀kọ̀lọ̀ ló bá tún kọ́ kejì ní kìnìún bá lé mbẹ ó wá ṣe wàhálà ilé tá à ń wí ó fi díẹ̀ ju bí táwa ẹ lọ o àwa ò rí o akani o àṣé wá ṣe àṣeyẹ tóbi kò tí ì sí màálù fúlàní láyé ń gbà yẹn ó ṣàrà fúlàní ó ṣàrà màálù tó pọ̀ ó ti wá mọ̀ pé wọ́n fẹ́ lé òun kúrò nílé yẹn wọ́n á lọ fògùn ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì gbogbo ẹ̀ àtẹ̀pó ńgbà wọn jẹun tó bá tilẹ̀kùn ó bá ṣá iná sílé gbogbo wọn bá jó Yomi Kenyatta wá lo ìtàn yẹn pé tí ẹ bá fẹ́ jà àti ọ̀fọ̀ àti àdánù ìlú ò máa lè ṣe é fọ̀ tẹ́ bá wo agogo èèwọ̀ Túndé Kèlání Ṣàwòrò Idẹ Túndé Kèlání mi ìgbà físà kí n tó wá lù yín o Nàìjíríà torí àwọn ìyá wa pè mí lára Amẹ́ríkà lẹ́ẹ̀kan ó bí mi inú oṣù mọ́ ń bínú ẹ rí i pé tí wọ́n ń sọ ń bẹ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ yóò lẹ́yìn o ọ̀rọ̀ yóò ẹ bá ń gbé
Àjàntí ele
yóò lẹ́yìn o
Àjàntí ele.
ibi tí mo fẹ́ parí ìbéèrè yìí sí.
Well, so much thanks to Professor Toyin Falola, a teacher of teachers, a professor of professors. Although when Professor Toyin Falola sneezes, everybody catches cold. When the professor retires, he's not tired. But we just want to go for a short break so that Professor can have more energy to attend to our questions. So let's go on a short break, please. back to the guest of the month. And the guest is Professor Toyin Falola, all the way from Texas, Austin, in the United States. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, all of you. Now, Shayo, over to you.
Yes, Prof, we want to thank you for doing justice to all our questions. You have been so objective. Now, my next question has to do with
probably the last question on this show.
Why? is the huge cost of governance in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So many people have made it known that governance, or we all know, it has been made public that governance is so costly in Nigeria. And people are calling for cuts in the costs, particularly of House of Assembly members, so National Assembly members, and so many other people. Do you support this measure?
What's your question?
I
had
the cost of governance. Yes. Are you in support that it should be reduced, that salaries of lawmakers especially should be cut down?
Very good. And thank you for that question. So, how can the salary and emoluments of a senator be higher than the president of the United States? You asked me not to compare. How can the salary and emolument of a member of House of Representatives be higher than that of the British parliamentarian? How can the salary of emoluments of politicians be higher than their Chinese counterparts? That is a problem. There is a consensus that is too high and is out of proportion to our national budget. But let us say it is too high. Let us, for 1 minute, forgive them. But what do we get in return? If I establish a company with my own money, and I hire you, and I pay you a lot of money, are you not going to deliver the profit for me?
Sure, I will.
So what profit are they delivering for us? So that's the second point. It's too high. They collect high salaries, but we don't benefit from it. So, number 3, is that not the money we should fund into development? Is that not the money that should go into building better schools? Is that not the money that we should use for poverty elimination? And that's one of the reasons why citizens are angry. If you look at our colleagues in universities when they strike, if you look at doctors when they strike, that's part of the evidence they use. That, why am I a doctor in Osun State Hospital being paid this money? Why you, the representative, wardrobe allowance, constituency allowance, car allowance, secretary allowance?
Yes,
Why are you getting this excessive money? Management of governance has been done differently before, even in Nigeria. Study the First Republic. You collect sitting allowance. That's what they were paying them. Even during civilian administration, like when one day Abimbola, former vice chancellor of Ife, was the Senate leader, they were not paying them that much money. They were not collecting those emoluments. Things changed. I have been privileged to meet some of these people, even in their living rooms. And I bring this conversation up. Can I shock you? They say it is too small. Some of them have gone to the public and said those emoluments and salaries are small. Why? I will explain you. They will say the woman there, when he wakes up as senator, comes to his house and say that his daughter is in the hospital, the senator should pay. They will say that the man sitting there says he brings his 3 children. He doesn't know how to pay their school fees. The senator should pay. They will say the chief who is there wants to do the second year anniversary of his chieftaincy ceremony, that he should give him 50 million. That part of that, it's you and me that is responsible for consuming that high salary, that they should pay them more. So they put the blame back on Nigerians, that Nigerians pressure them. So I also use this opportunity to also tell, because we also have a followership problem, that some of you listening to this program, anytime you go to the Senator and House of Representatives to ask for money, you are collecting a share of the money that belongs for your development. So we also have to warn our people. The more money you ask these people to give you from their own resources, the more they use you to justify that cost of governance. It has to be reduced. We cannot afford it. Remember, some countries just abolished one of those 2 houses. Do we need that number? Do we need them to stay, to be working full time? You also forget the pension system. Remember the pension system, that they collect pension. In fact, there are some states where the houses where they were living will belong to them when they are no longer serving. So we are not doing well, and I'm very grateful.
So much thanks to you, sir, recording our force on this edition of Guest of the Month. But before Professor Falola leaves, I want to say that very soon issues about Olubadan kingship will be sorted out. I want to say that when the coronation comes up, you invite us. We don't have money. New Ekesia. Yeah, so much gratitude to the following people. Professor Ademola da Silva, Chairman, TOFAC Board and former Dean Faculty of Arts, University of Ibadan. Where are you, sir? Professor Ademola da Silva was my teacher at the University of Ibadan. He taught me Introduction to Poetry, English 113. Thank you for being here. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Dr. Bola Dauda, independent scholar and a retired professor at the University of Liverpool, UK. Dr. Michael Afolayan, independent scholar, retired from Illinois, Chicago, USA, professor of linguistic studies. Baale and Venerable Olatinwo Fatuki, Baale of Kusheela, Ibadan. Kusheela. Thank you, Ibadan. Okay, thank you. Osogbo ni àwa ti wá.
Èyí náà tó ń wá èmi mọ́ ní Ìbàdàn títí tí ó fi dóṣogbo. Èyí náà tó ní.
Ètò ìgbaniláyè láti fèsì. Engineer Kayode Odeleye, thank you, retired Director of Works, Osun State, Director of Maintenance and OAU, retired Director of Maintenance, OAU, you are most welcome, thank you. Professor Adeshina Afolayan, Professor of Philosophy, University of Ibadan. You're welcome, sir. Baba Adisa Ogunfolakon. Thank you, Baba, for joining us. And when the professor walked in, everybody knew a professor came in. Professor Shiyan Oyeweso. Where are you, sir? Oh, thank you so much for joining us. I cannot but recognize the presence of Babaloja General for the District of Osun, Chief David Iliola. Baba Ekabo, Agbauronu, Agbaudale, and other Babalojas in the state. Mojiba Misari Kiwon, Babaloja.
Gbogbo ẹ̀yin bàbá lọ́jà àti ẹ̀wà ń bí náà ni a kí pé ẹ kú kalẹ̀ látàárọ̀ àti ẹ̀yin bàbá tí ẹ wá pẹ̀lú wọn. Ẹ ṣeun ẹ kú ìdìde.
Officers and men of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, students in attendance, the management and staff of OSBC, led by Mr. Rashid Folaromi, we say thank you to all of you. So on behalf of the management and staff again, I appreciate and we appreciate Professor Toyin Falola for being our guest on this edition of Guest of the Month. Please, let's appreciate Professor. I don't think it is too much for management and staff to stand up and give Professor Falola an ovation, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oluwatoyin Yusuf is my name. My co-presenters have been Olushayo Babatunde and Mojibola Kayode. Okay. The way Professor was talking about Moji's face, I was thinking maybe. Okay. Join us next time on another edition of Guest of the Month. Good afternoon, everybody.